Okay, we've got our Type 1 3-lever VIS FB Polish Radom taken apart. We made sure all the numbers match and we're ready to put it back together. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set in the mainspring. The mainspring has got a little hook on one end. That hook goes down toward the bottom. And when you get it in right, there's actually a groove in the receiver that it slides and locks into place with. Really simple to set it in there. You just kind of want to hold the gun looking down so that you hold it in place. I take the hammer, I just slide it in there. Now the hammer pin is different than the rest of them because it has an end on it to keep it from going all the way through. I look through the receiver, get the hammer lined up kind of close, set the pin in there, and it goes right in. Now I want to try to keep the hammer in the fully down position the entire time that I'm doing this assembly to make sure that when I get to the mainspring housing that it sets right on there. Okay, I've got the hammer pin in place. The next thing I'm going to do is take the safety. Now I always like to try to just set the bottom of the safety in place first, and that's just to kind of help line things up because you've got those spring fingers and everything else out there. So once you get that down in there, you'll feel it kind of bounces around off the spring. Everything, you have to hold it in place. Now remember, we've got what looks like a key lock at the top. We've got a tab on the takedown lever, so it has to go in a certain way. When you get it right, it'll just push right in, no problem. You twist it just a little bit, and this is where you want to be careful. Barely lift up, no more than you have to, because these are the tabs you see broken all the time or bent all the time because people lift them up too far. My hammer's still fully down. My safety's in place and works. I can feel that. Now, I have to line up this pin that comes out of the center, comes down off the hammer. I have to line up this pin in the top of this housing. So as I set that housing in place, just pull it all the way back against the bottom. The housing's going to line up. And when I push down, I just hold everything in place. You don't have to force anything, it goes right into place. Now once you've done this, don't hammer this pin in, don't drive the pin in. The pin, once you get everything just right, will push in by hand, line up perfectly on both sides, and at that point, you have your lower put back together, minus the grips, which we'll go ahead and put the grips on there. And of course, like I said when I took it apart, you want to be really careful. There's no reason to over tighten these grip screws. This is Bakelite that's 65, 70 years old, and it can start to get a little brittle. The reason that plastic and Bakelite gets brittle in age is the reason that we don't let friends buy plastic guns, because eventually you won't see any of these old relics when they 100-year-old plastic guns just literally fall apart in your hand. There's one grip down. I'm going to go ahead and cock the weapon at this time because it's going to have to be cocked when I put the slide on. And of course, the screws should always start really easy. If you have to force them at all, stop. You've got them cross-threaded or something in the way. Okay, there's the lower assembled. Now I'm going to take the slide. I'm going to stick the barrel in the slide. I'm going to take the recoil spring. Like I say, it's got that what looks like a horseshoe on one end. I leave that up, put it in, roll it over to where that's on the bottom side then. Take, slide the lower and the upper together, push back to where the takedown lever locks up in place. I take the slide, stop, hold open, put it in place, pull the front, it lines right up, falls into place. Polish Radom. VIS FB. Why it was never produced after the war, I don't know. It's one of the finest weapons made.